Hmm? You can speak up, yeah.
Reliability, resilience, cost, and cost is relative with quality.
Because cost will affect many technological qualities and many other characteristics. What else did we learn?
Safety or accidents.
Accidents, very good. Anything else that you remember?
Risk acceptance.
Oh, okay. Resilience, okay, very good. So let's kind of very briefly review what we did, and I can show you these slides again, and then we can finish lecture 1, and then we'll continue with lecture 2, and then we can have a little bit short break, and then we can do tutorial. Good? What happens is there is lot of information. So we will see how you relate to what I'm teaching, and then based on that, I can teach it for 100 hours, but maybe see if we can teach it in 1 hour, depending on how much time is available. So that doesn't mean that every slide I have, we have to show it to you. You follow? But all this material is in your course package. So even if I don't go over a slide, it is in your course package. And one of the ways like we improve reliability is by redundancies. So many concepts, I'll repeat them again and again and again, and maybe they'll make sense. First time you hear, maybe it doesn't make sense. Then maybe third time and fourth time you'll hear, it will start making sense. So in this slide, we were showing that overall effectiveness of the system, we could call that as the quality or happiness of the customer, or total benefit to everything that is affected by the system that you design. And then you can go to subsystems and subsystems, and then every part has many qualities. So this slide, I think all of you can relate to, right? And this slide again is this is the totality of all the qualities, and then some of these qualities affect reliability, some safety, some maintainability, some resilience, and so on. What was this slide trying to show? Yeah, how things change with time. As time changes, things change. And then the whole purpose of resilience is to recover as things change. So like if I come here, let us say I eat something or I do something and I get sick, so that means how fast can I recover? So if I'm a resilient person, I can recover fast. But if my body doesn't have a good immunity, it will take longer time to recover. And this slide was trying to show that what the customer wants, and then the process that engineers design, and the steps that the engineers go through. So you can see this is what the customer wanted. If you're a boy, you say, I want to swing in my village, you can just get a tire and then you can swing. But the engineers don't understand that. So you always start with a very fancy design. And then you iterate it, then you have this design. But in this design, you won't be able to swing. But then I could come up with an engineering fix. So you can see this engineering fix is not a good way to solve problems. So conceptually, that means you have to cut the tree and then prop it up and then swing. So the idea is that anytime you look at happiness of the customer, there are many substitutes, and then engineers are always working on the substitutes. And then our hope is that we have good substitutes. So we mentioned that most of the quality, reliability problems are because we are not able to translate your needs into my design. So like you wanted to learn something, I was in America, I make these slides. I have no idea whether this is a good substitute for your learning or not, right? So I could have completely misjudged what you want to learn or how you want to learn. And this is what my substitute is. And our hope is even if this is not the best substitute, we can make it work. So just like after lunch, we fix the problem with the projector. So we have tremendous capability to make changes in our presentation, to make changes in the slides, to make changes in how I teach you, to make changes in how you are interacting with me, and on and on. And a lot of times, all of that will happen if you take it very seriously. So you accept some responsibility. So like I have a responsibility to teach, you have a tremendous responsibility not only learn, but make sure that you tell me what is the right way for you to learn. And every student in this class has a different way to learn, right? I teach one way, but you learn one way, he learns another way, somebody else learns in another way. So we will many times change the format of teaching. So sometimes he's happy, sometimes somebody else is happy. So maybe over 30, 40 years of teaching, then you will be able to understand what we are trying to do. So we talked quite a bit about substitutes, then we talked about how we can integrate all things, and then the process that we use is somebody says what is reliability. So that's like one of the arts in this course. And then this slide I'm repeat it 5 times so that you can relate to it. So you can always go to a dictionary and say what is reliability. It says reliability is a noun that is state of being reliable. I say what is reliable? It says reliable is an adjective, that's something that can be relied upon, something that is dependable. So that is nice to say, like I could say, oh, this pointer, can I depend on it? So depending on it, question is how do you decide if I give you 2 pointers that this pointer is better than this pointer? So that means we'll have to figure out, it says in engineering, design and management and improvement purpose, reliability must be precisely defined. So what is a good definition for the word reliability? Then you can measure it, you can evaluate it, you can mathematically give you an equation, you can compute it, you can test it, you can verify it, you can sustain it, and on throughout the life cycle of the system. So then you can see this is what the dictionary says, but then like IEEE, Reliability Society, this is their substitute. So, and ordinary people are not engineers, right? So then how will a customer think of reliability? Customers think of reliability in a very different way than engineers think of reliability. Then a professional society thinks of reliability. So reliability, it says, is the ability. Ability is a very, very complex word, right? Somebody says, you're able to do something. What does it mean? It says the ability of a product or a system. So there are 4 things in this definition. 1, you cannot define reliability unless you decide what is the function for the system, what something has to do. Then you decide what does it mean for it not to do its function. So that is the idea of what is failure definition. And then you have to decide how long something has to do its function. And then you have to decide what are the operating conditions. So reliability typically will say, oh, ability is very complex. So later on we'll substitute ability by some degree. So we could call that degree as a likelihood or a probability. So I could say, oh, reliability is the probability that something will do what it says it is supposed to do for 10 hours under certain operating conditions. If I say reliability is 95%, then it is better than reliability of 90% or 85%. So we can then develop mathematically, and then once I say it is probability, then means I have to use all the mathematical training that you had in probability. Then how did you measure probability?
Number of favorable events.
Yeah, but what do we call to estimate probability? What is the name of that field? How did you estimate probability? Using which discipline? Huh? I didn't. No, but what do we call, just like there is a probability and then there's another word that is called statistics. Yes, so statistics is very different than probability. Probability is a theoretical concept, and in statistics, doing experimentation, we are able to estimate, we are able to infer, we are able to do a lot of things about probability. So then we can talk about a couple of times how is statistics different than probability, and then how you use statistics, what is the power of statistics, what are the limitations of statistics. Some of you have taken courses on statistics. Almost everybody? Yes, no. Who has taken a course in statistics? Only one person in the whole group. Two people only.
We are not audible.
I'm sorry?
We are not audible like that.
You cannot hear me? You want to move up their seats? Huh? Yeah, you cannot hear me, right?
Sir, at some times.
So you want to come up? You want to stop? There's some chairs and come up. See, there are two seats here. There are two seats here. You can come up. Yeah, there are two seats here. There are a couple of seats here. Thank you. Yeah. You can turn off the fan. You may be little uncomfortable, so that's a compromise. Who else cannot hear me? You cannot even tell me who cannot hear me. Can you hear me? Huh? You can hear me. One thing is I cannot teach you if you don't interact with me. Is that clear? Yeah, thank you. So you have to be able to tell me, and these slides you don't have to copy. Why do I say that?
Those we are given in the course text.
Yeah, you already have them. You can always, if you want to, you can write some ideas. And then if there is any way you can bring that material with you, you'll be able to benefit. Because given that you are here for a couple of hours, you want to have a good, effective utilization of your time. And that is a good utilization of my time. Because if I'm teaching and I'm not making any impact on you, then it is wastage of your time and wastage of my time. Make sense? So you have to, and if you're not interested in what we are teaching, you can just do something else. Don't waste your life by sitting in this class, right? If this is not something that you enjoy or something that you think is not relevant, there are so many better things to do in life than listen to me, right? So you can do a lot of other things if you cannot benefit from what we are trying to do. So part of the mission of GAIN, our academic network, is to figure out how different institutions in India can benefit how other people teach, and so developing a network that can help your professors, so that can also help professors in other countries, in Australia, United States, England, and so on. So this is like an investment by our society to improve effectiveness of our teaching. But if I spend 5 days and we have no impact on the effectiveness, then we have wasted our time. And the basic idea is teaching means is that I have to figure out how to transform you. So that means if you came here Monday and you think one way, hopefully by Friday you think differently. If you don't do that, then we have wasted our time, because we had no impact on you as a person. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. They appreciate your cooperation. And the most important thing is to enjoy it, right? You have two choices. Either you can sit here and complain, or you enjoy it. Which is a good choice? Enjoy it, right? The other choice doesn't look good, because if you're not happy, you can do something very, very different. And there should not be any fear in learning. You know, if you have fear and you're just learning it because you think your professor wanted you to learn, you won't benefit at all. Fear is one of the worst way to learn. You know, I think most of you know that there's a positive reinforcement and negative. So one way to change human behavior is to hurt people, harm them, right? And other way to change behavior is to give positive reinforcement. So if you look in nature, the way nature changes all of us is with positive reinforcement. So for our survival, you know, to live, you need food, right? How much happiness you get when you eat. And most of us overeat, right? And we do that because now you can see that is too much of positive reinforcement. And then we overdo it. So a lot of things you'll find the way nature evolves and the way we evolve is most effective way is positive reinforcement. It's not like by beating people up and then you can change the behavior. Make sense? You know, we have been beating people for thousands of years, right? But it hasn't changed behavior. People have been killing each other for how many years? Thousands of years. But it hasn't worked. People are still doing bad things, right? So it hasn't worked. And the reason it cannot work is human body, the way it is designed, it works very well with positive things. And then not even that it works well, negative is you get too addicted to it. And then it has negative consequences because you get so much happiness, so much pleasure in doing certain things. So figure out what will make you happy. And if the way we are teaching doesn't make you happy, you know, then it is the wrong class for you guys. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So just enjoy it, even if you're not enjoying it in the beginning, pretend you're enjoying it, and maybe by tomorrow you will start enjoying it. Okay? Just smile and get positive vibes in your body and learn to enjoy. Even if you don't want to learn about reliability, you can learn about a lot of things about life and how to be a good person, how to have success, whatever your definition of success is. All of you have a different metric, what success is, what happiness is, what does it mean to achieve your goals and objectives. So why even you are getting education, right? So why are you getting education? Hmm? What are your life goals?
He is a good person.
What is a good person?
A person with a good quality.
Good qualities. But what are good? Why you want to be a good quality person?
Make a successful life.
See, it typically happens with this argument. We'll talk about a principle. So we say it's not like what is the purpose? What is the purpose of the purpose? The purpose of the purpose. And very soon when people talk, their argument becomes cyclical. Or they become very uncomfortable in revealing to somebody else what their purpose in life is, right? They become very, very uncomfortable. So it's very, very important. One slide was the hierarchy that we have. So always understand the hierarchy. And if you understand the purpose of the purpose, then whatever this purpose is, you'll be very comfortable because you're striving to go to the next level. Then you're striving to go to the next level. The biggest happiness is when people strive to achieve something. Make sense? That is not hard work. That is pleasure. You'll find, like, if some of you observe a dog, and biggest on one hand there is a food, other hand there is a frisbee. Dogs are so excited to catch the frisbee that they forget there is food there, right? So achieving something is very important for human beings, in addition to doing basic things like food and so on. Make sense? So learn how to have a happy environment, at least for the next couple of days. And then interact and then tell me, hey, stop right here. It has no meaning for me. So why are you wasting my time? And I think I've been teaching over 48 years. We have tremendous capability, not that we can make everybody happy, to help you, to guide you, to change your perspective, to change your paradigm, how you think and how you behave. So if you don't change your paradigm or change, like in our sense, change the system, you cannot have any improvement. Sometimes we say, who's a stupid person? So we say a stupid person is a person who keeps on doing the same thing again and again, but expects something different will happen tomorrow. But if you do the same thing again and again and again, you have same habits, same way of thinking, nothing different is going to happen tomorrow. Make sense? There is no magic that if I keep on doing the same thing, something wonderful will happen tomorrow, right? Make sense?
Yes.
Because this is, pure causation. You know the word karma?
Yeah.
What is karma?
Whatever we do, it comes back to you.
It is causation. Karma, in a scientific sense, is cause and effect. So that means even in your way of thinking, if you do bad deeds, nobody can undo them for you. You'll have to pay the penalty. So like in India, if our whole society pollutes rivers, throws garbage on the street, whole country will suffer. And then maybe 50 years from today, your grandchildren will be born and they say, this is so polluted, I cannot breathe, I have lung diseases, and this is their karma. They didn't do anything wrong, but their grandparents did things wrong. So in your life, you may be suffering today and you're very frustrated. You say, what do I do wrong to deserve this? And that is your karma based on what somebody did 50 years ago or 100 years ago. But that is at a system level, but you can apply it at a personal level. So anything you do at any point in time, it seems very trivial. You could waste 5 minutes with me. It will have long-term tremendous consequences which you're not able to understand it today. Make sense? You believe in karma?
Yes.
Yeah, because karma is not religion. It is just science. You know, what is science? To understand cause and effect. So all a scientist does is, how do things happen? What is gravity? How do things happen? And then you understand cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And you're able to explain how input is transformed to the output. So that is essentially is the same old Hindu philosophy. It says you cannot undo things. There is hardly anything in your life at any point in time that you do that will not haunt you in the future. If you sit down and reflect on it, you'll be amazed this simple statement. You think if you waste 5 minutes of your time today, it will affect you 20 years from today? What do you think? How will it affect you?
If you waste your time,
Uh-huh.
last week, idea like, at that time, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. You regret about it.
Definitely. And you are not even able to understand how it will affect you 20 years from today. So let's continue. So you can see that then we could come up with, certainly we are talking about probability, but dictionary says something that you can depend upon. So like in this picture, there is a jumper, and this jumper is worried, can they trust their partners or not? So if she's going to jump, is somebody going to catch them, right? So if they don't catch them, whether their group is reliable or not. So if you're a team and you say, oh, can I depend on my partners? So that's the idea of depending is reliability. I think let's go back. And so same idea is true with maintainability. So reliability deals with how long something works, and if something doesn't work, then it fails. Then maintainability deals with how long it will take to restore it. So maintainability in an engineering sense is at low level, very similar to resilience. If something is very hard to fix, of course it is not resilient. So maintainability, then repairability is part of maintainability, and so on. So they are all impact the resilience of a system. So you could define the word maintainability. Then we talked about this morning about this thing deals with reliability and robustness. Then this thing deals with resilience or long-term sustainability of the system. And then another word is robustness. So robustness is borrowed from biological sciences. So we say like degradation of the quality index is a function of the robustness. Like that means in this previous, in the previous slide, then if something degrades, that will affect the robustness of the system. You can, different ways you can achieve robustness. And today we have a tutorial on robustness, and that may take 2-3 hours, but we will try to do it in 1 hour based on time. But at least gives you some idea that how we achieve robustness. Robustness is very similar to the idea of immunity. So it is like I left India 50 some years ago, and that time I could drink water, tap water, I will never get sick. Today, if I drink water here, what do you think will happen to me tomorrow? I'll get sick right away. All I have to do is, if somebody gives me a glass of water and a drink, I'll get sick. So that means now I'm no longer robust, because the problem with that is that before my body developed immunity. But then now if you live in a clean environment and there is very pure water and pure air, body says, why do you need this immunity? Body is very efficient. It says if you don't need something, it loses it. So you become less robust. rather than becoming more robust. So that is one of the trade-offs in Western society. But in India, then a lot of people suffer a lot because of so much disease, right? And they cannot deal with bacteria and viruses and malaria and hundreds of other diseases because they are all over in the environment. So that, I'm sorry?
So we are more robust.
You are more robust than Americans, but then the challenge is you are suffering a lot in the meantime. So Americans say, okay, they are suffering, but we are not getting sick. But million years...
Sir, we are evolving from that. We are evolving.
You are evolving, but in that evolution, you are also suffering, right? That evolution has lot of pains in the process. Somewhere you are paying some price for it. Long term, like we say, supposing million years from today, there is a asteroid lands on Earth, and a lot of technology is lost. Who you think will survive on this planet? Indians or Americans? Indians, because they're very robust, and all the Americans will die because if suddenly there is no power to clean the water, and they have no immunity, so they will die. But that still doesn't mean that you want to keep on suffering, right? So you still need to figure out, how to evolve in a better way than through suffering.
Yeah, we are trying. Our Prime Minister is trying.
Yeah. So it's like you say, no pain, no gain. That is always not true. You don't have to suffer to improve. Just like you don't have to suffer to learn in this class. You can be very happy, enjoy it, have a smile on your face, say hello to me, appreciate what I'm saying. This is a privilege to you, right? It is a privilege to me to take this time to interact with you. You could decide not to take advantage of this opportunity, which is okay too, right? Because that is, you are all free to make choices. So the word resilience typically means, like we're repeating it many times, is the ability to recover. So this idea, like you learn in mechanical engineering, the word resilience. So I think some of you might have taken, these are like all the definitions of resilience in ecology and safety and so on. So many times, like you understand vibrations, a damper. So if a system oscillates and then I can dampen it, then it restores back to its original condition. So that is the idea of resilience. So I think this is the end of lecture number 1. I can take a couple more minutes and maybe answer your questions and see whether it made any sense what we covered today. Then we can go to lecture number 2. Any question? No? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there any relation between the reliability and the post? Means in the previous value you said that the post and the quality are the...
Sure. So you can make something very reliable like this battery in here. I can design it so that it can last 1,000 hours. We have the technology today to do that.
Yes.
But then it will be very expensive.
Yeah, it will affect the cost.
It will affect the cost. So I design it so the customer says for $1 is good enough for me, or for 100 rupees is good enough for me. But I don't want to pay 10,000 rupees. So let's go to the second module and see if I can upload it. So we can finish it also relatively fast because we are repeating a lot of things in this module. And like I mentioned, is one way to make some impact is through repetition. You know, how do we achieve high reliability? Is by redundancy, right? Or like somebody talked about safety factor and so on. So it's like anytime you make something and it needs 2 bolts, they put in 6 bolts, right? Yeah. So if like you're sitting on your chair, you could say, oh, it should be good enough maybe up to 200 kg%, but we design it for 500 kg%. Even if, you put a lot of weight, chair is not going to crush. It could be more comfortable, definitely. So this again is talks about like what are the new trends in reliability. So a lot of these slides I have shown you before, so I can just kind of very briefly go through them with you. So we kind of want to repeat them as a review in this module number 2. In this module, I had put in the word sustainability too, and that is related to resilience, because resilience means to be able to recover. So like in India, all over the world, people talking about sustainable. Everything should be sustainable, right? You know, what does word sustainable mean to most of you?
Support. To support something.
Say it again. Can you speak so that everybody can understand?
To support something.
To support something is sustain. Now, in environment, what does sustainable mean?
Even performance up to a certain level.
Yeah. Sure. So if, for example, like you say, in any society, if you have, say, population growth, and if population grows too fast, society won't be able to sustain it. So then in India or China, they could talk about what is a good sustainable level of having number of children that you should have, and then how you can impact it. Like polluting environment, if you pollute it too fast, you won't be able to sustain clean air. So like this morning they were planting trees. So he said that if you keep on cutting trees, your air won't be very good. There won't be enough oxygen for us to breathe. So we use the word sustainability in a very, very broad sense. And everywhere in the world, people talk about how sustainable many of our systems are. There is a concept here that I can teach you briefly, and will again repeat this idea many times. So typically what we do is, you have heard the word feedback. What does feedback mean? Yeah, so just like I was asking you, oh, tell me, how are you learning? Tell me what I should do different, and on and on. Is feedback good?
Yes, sir. Necessary.
It's good, but what's the disadvantage of feedback? Time consuming. What else?
You have to change your process.
You have to change your process.
Little negative feedback will
Sir, how much reliable is feedback?
How what?
How much reliable is feedback?
But by feedback. What? See, like I do something. So like we have a process here, and then I make a product, and then just like this morning, somebody says, "Oh, quality means we have standards." Then I could say, does it meet the standard or it doesn't meet the standard?
judging the performance.
Standard to performance. So then if there's too many defectives or non-conforming, then I could feedback and change the process. So what do you think is wrong here? I know there are a lot of...
Feedback should be
Sir,
Huh?
design may be
It is backward, but by the time, it may take me time to change. And by the time you give me feedback, process keeps on doing the damage. Right?
The product is already in the market.
Already out there, and now customers are complaining, and now you are changing something. So if customers are complaining, they will next year they won't come back to you, right? So feedback also has its limitations. So what is then better than feedback? No, what is quality? What will be better than feedback?
But we should make more designs so that we translate the feedback.
Yeah, see, the idea is like this, very simple idea. So supposing I have this design process. Anytime you have a process, it has like it's a box, there are so many inputs and outputs, right? So as supposing this input A changes, it's like karma. What will happen to Y? If A changes, Y will change, right? And if I understand the karma, A and Y, causation, karma means causation. And as soon as A changes, I stop the process and I don't even make any bad Y. So which one is better? To make bad things and then correct them, or to keep making correct things to start with? Correct, yeah. So feedback is very bad. Feedback means is you are telling me you're not smart enough to know how to make something right. You are admitting to me you're not very smart and you don't know how to make something right. You don't understand the causation. Make sense? So it says that if A changes and B changes and, as A changes and B changes and C changes, then Y will change. So then we can develop a mathematical model of A, B, C, D, E, and then you tell me what Y you want, I will tell you what A should be, what B should be, what C should be, what D should be. And I always get the correct Y. Rather than focusing on, in India, there is so much emphasis on listening to complaints and complaints and complaints. So like in your university, you may have a complaints department, but by the time you file a complaint about some professor or some staff member, you're already so upset, you're so unhappy in life. It's too late, right? It's too late, and there's nothing much can be done. And everybody knows how to do things. We have enough wisdom today to prevent a lot of these things from happening. But nobody is preventing them. A lot of time is spent on complaints. And through complaints, you cannot improve processes. You cannot, no matter how much, you probably, not just you, but 100 years back, students always have been complaining, right? But sometimes nothing much is changing. Nothing much is changing. Because we're not fundamentally changing the processes and on and on. So we can make a picture. So we say there are so many things that we don't know. There's an input, but then there is a lot of things that are not in my power, right? So we call those as noises or disturbance. So then I could say, oh, because of disturbance, my input transforms to the output, but this output is very different than my target. Then I could give back the feedback. But in this process, there is a delay. So anytime there is a delay, you do a lot of damage. You're upset today, tomorrow you will file grievance, tonight you cannot sleep. So that's wasted energy and resources of a person. So the other idea is the concept of a feed forward. So feed forward means is I become smart. I say, why you become unhappy? And I try to factor that in. And based on that, I change the input so that output is where you want. Output is where you want. Most of the research in engineering and science is based on feedback. Very little research is being done on feed forward. If you go PhD thesis and somebody says, oh, I want to do feed forward control, there won't be many papers. So you can do wonderful work applying this concept of feed forward. In real life, nobody understands the system, so this disturbance, many things are unknown or unknowable. So maybe for those things you could do feedback, but for many knowledge, we have enough knowledge so we could do feed forward. As soon as the disturbance changes, I change the input so that I don't make anything output. Make sense? And this idea, you can apply it in your life, right? So this is same as the notion of being proactive. You know the word proactive rather than reactive. What is proactive? Proactive. What you think?
One can do a lot of work.
No, pro.
The process done before the starting of the production process.
Sir, मतलब this spontaneous
Smarter than smart.
For example, you can do survey.
You can do survey.
Before the production of the product, we can make a market survey. For a particular product, about what is the requirements of the customer for that particular product.
Ready to
So if
perform.
we can do that, that is the process to production.
Before implementing any
Before implementing planning, so you spend a lot of time on pre-planning. Any good organization, most of the energy is spent up front rather than after the fact. So just to learn, there is a concept called the teaching moment. You have heard that in your university. Any professor taught you about a teaching moment? What is a teaching moment? So teaching moment is that anytime there is a conflict, things are not working out the way you want them, you can use that to teach students new ideas. You say why somebody is fighting, why something is not working. So if you look at our behavior in this seminar today, how many times things didn't work? Chancellor wants to do audio, doesn't work. I want to do something, doesn't work. Why was that happening? No pre-planning. Chancellor never came here and rehearsed, or nobody told them that you wanted to do audio. Nobody looked at image on the screen and sat back and say whether it is projectable. Everything that we did today could have been prevented. Right? And all it maybe needed was 20 minutes. Right?
Yeah.
But we didn't do that. And even if I waste 10 minutes and then there are 60 people, now I've wasted 60 hours of 60 person hours because we were so dumb. We say we are so busy to do things right the first time, but we have so much time to do it right the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. And any company you go to, everywhere in a society like India, you go to Africa, societies that are developing, all they are doing is solving problems. There are so many crises, go from crisis to crisis to crisis. And you say, who's planning for the future? Nobody. If you're not planning for the future, like we learned this morning, and I repeated it again, if you do the same thing again and again and again, you'll always have crises again and again and again. And something very, very simple. So if you're a good person managing anything, you have to do a lot of preparation ahead of time. And you test your equipment, and you make sure how it will work for speaker 1 and speaker 2 and speaker 3 and speaker 4 and on and on. So that's the idea of feed forward. If you don't do that, then typically what will happen? You are very unhappy because you cannot relate to me. I'm very unhappy. I say, why go back to India? These people don't understand what I'm teaching, so I'm wasting my life. So everybody's unhappy because there is not enough of pre-planning and taking the time to do that. Make sense? And then that is true in your own life. every day you sit and you say, oh, are you worried about, most of the students are, like if a professor gives homework on, say, Monday night, and it says homework you do next Monday, they will do it on Sunday night, right? Why is that? And then Sunday night they'll be stuck, and now they are stressed out, so they'll be forced to compromise and cheat or copy from somebody because they don't plan. So if when I was a student, if you give me homework on Monday night, I'd finish it by Tuesday. If I don't finish by Tuesday, my psychologist says it's too late. Forget it. Do something else, right? Because otherwise you will always be behind in your life. And all you have to do is keep a diary of what you do every day, and you'll be amazed how much time you're wasting every day and how much time system is forcing you to waste every day, right? Because there is no proactivity. That is called proactivity. Make sense? So you think tomorrow you'll become proactive?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, thank you. I can feel happy, right? At least temporarily. Whether it has any long-term impact or not, who knows? So the idea is if you have a machine, like some of you may be in machining, like any MTech student in machining, no? I mean, we only have PhD and BTech, no MTech here. Why?
All PhDs are MTech here.
Oh, PhDs are MTech here. Okay, very good. Very good. So you can see, thank you. So you can see, like if I'm grinding something, right? And then the grinding wheel is wearing, right? So if the grinding wheel wears, what will happen to the diameter of something that I'm grinding? If my wheel is becoming smaller, this machine will become bigger. So I don't have to grind something and measure the output rod and say it is defective. So if I was being proactive, rather than measuring the output, like we teach people inspection, I should be inspecting the grinding wheel rather than making the tool. Because if you make the part and then it is bad, you have wasted so much money. Material and machining time. And it's very simple causation. It says if the grinding wheel wears, the output will change. And why do you want to make a bad thing before you decide to change the grinding wheel? You follow? Make sense? So it's like you can look at this picture. Can you see this picture? So what do you think is happening here? So like supposing somebody says, I want water at certain temperature. And then somebody's eyes are on the outlet valve and the temperature. And as the temperature changes, they could change the water flow so that water temperature becomes at target. So here you can see eyes are on the outlet, but you can see that this is bad because you are already going to have water that is not at target. And then you're going to change the input. So much better is you monitor the flow or you monitor the energy that is being supplied to the furnace. And as the flow is changing, energy is changing, you know the water temperature will change. So you don't have to do bad things. You don't have to do bad things. You know enough. That's the idea. People feel so sad, like I sometimes feel sad. I said there is so much wisdom out there and nobody's using it today in our society. Why is that? How come people are not using wisdom that may be written in Bhagavad Gita 2,000 years ago? You don't have to get PhD to understand that, right? And how much impact you can make on society by just following very, very simple, basic ideas. And I think all of you know that technology has limits. Yes or no? Yeah. So there's a limit how much you can, by getting PhD in mechanical engineering, there's a limit how much impact you can have on society. But if the basic thinking and processes and systems and procedures and people's ethics and morals are not correct, technology cannot solve that problem. So why is it, you can ask, tell me, why is it people are not using the wisdom in India? Anybody? Yeah, how about you? Why are people not using simple wisdom to improve quality of life? I'm sorry? Oh, who wants to? Nobody wants to talk. BTech students don't talk. Only MTech student or PhD student talk.
They don't have enough resources.
They do, who?
In the form of they have to work for their family.
Who?
The people. If suppose if we are the student of PhD, our aim is not to provide something for the country. Our aim is just only to get a degree and to get a post of professor in some of the colleges. Because what we have to do, we have to serve our family. We don't have enough money and time for the country. Because our country is not giving us the surety that your life will be okay. We will provide you the education and medicine. That's why they cannot think of a proper research in various areas of technology. That's why we are lacking from the developed countries.
We have less employment, that's why we are busy in doing, we are just fighting for our
I think why you say you have less employment, how many problems India has compared to, say, China or Germany or USA? There are so many problems to solve in India.
The basic problem is one that our education system is not providing the students who can implement the ideas for the development of technology.
Why?
Because our system is lacking of the infrastructure for it. If you will see that this is an international conference and we are not having the proper equipment also, then how can you think that the students of PhD in such of the universities can have proper resources to make a proper research which can be implemented in the industries? Almost 90% of the research are being done by the R&D centers of the various industries. Only IITs and other big NITs level institutes are giving the scholar students. Such universities are not doing anything for the any type of research which can be utilized in the industries. This is the basic problem.
Oh, that's the problem. Okay. So then you have to figure out how to solve it, right? You cannot be pessimistic and give up, right? Because if you give up, you know what will happen from today, right? Same thing.
The people are not giving up, sir. They are doing their best.
No, I'm saying that giving up means we are not changing the educational system, we are not changing the processes, we are not changing the system. So you have to change something. And what you said, the way I heard was seems like this is how things are, and you don't have the time to think about India. You're more worried about your job and your family, but not worried about India. Yeah. So if each one does that, then India won't be any good. There's no way India can be any good. So you have to change. This is what we call as a vicious cycle. Now you're stuck, and this is negative feedback, and it becomes worse and worse and worse, rather than better and better and better. So you have to figure out how to break this cycle. If you are that smart to understand the causation, you should be able to fix it somehow. I'm just challenging. Doesn't mean we can all do that together, but it's just a way of thinking. So that's why, in 20th century, engineering by definition is, we call it applied science, right? So most of the sciences that we used in 20th century, all the electronics and microprocessors and computer technology, is all based on physics and chemistry. So many times people now say that the 21st century is a century that will be based on biology. Many universities in America, every engineer has to take biology course, not just physics and chemistry. Like most of you, BTech students, you take physics and chemistry, yeah, but you don't take biology, right? No, I'm talking of, even in computer science, you need biology. Say it again.
Yeah, there is no science stream is divided in med and non-medical. Medical ones have PCM and biology, and non-medical have PCM, mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Non-meds don't have biology as a course in the system.
Combine होता है.
See, what is a human brain? Is it a computer? Yeah, so lot of computations, the difference is that not in computer science you need a computer. The difference between engineers and ordinary people is the word computer has no meaning. Then the second question is, who's going to design the computer? Who's going to design the software, right? So the computer scientists are going to design the software. Then what's the purpose of the software? Is software just adding numbers, or is software imitating human brain? So then in future, the computers and the processing of computers will all be very different than today's computer that is based on physics and chemistry. So that's why learning biology becomes very important. All the artificial intelligence, right, that is done in the Department of Computer Science. And artificial intelligence is what? Learning about human intelligence and then automating it. So that's why these days the idea of neural networks and artificial intelligence is becoming very, very important. Then everywhere there are applications of neural networks. So we talked quite a bit about feed forward. One of the other words that we use is called diagnostics and prognostics. So feedback means somebody gives me feedback, then I diagnose my system. I say, what is wrong with my system? Then I fix it, right? So word prognostic, you heard prognostic. Anybody in this group knows the word prognostic? No? It's what? So prognostic means is to predict. So that is how medicine was created. More than 2,000 years ago, Hippocrates, so he wrote 20 axioms for prognostics. So the idea is I go to doctor. So doctor could analyze my blood chemistry, and doctor could say, oh, you have a high cholesterol. If you have a high cholesterol, then 10 years from today you'll get a heart disease. Then you can die faster. So then I'm able to predict based on present condition what will happen in the future. And then with feed forward, I can change it. So then doctor says, oh, your blood pressure is too high. I can help you. I can get you medicine so that your blood pressure will go down, so that 20 years from today you won't die. So that's what medicine is all about. So the same idea. So like I could come to India and I could give you prognostics. Oh, 30 years from today, you'll have these bad problems. I could have done prognostic 50 years ago and said this is what is going to happen. You follow? So then the word diagnostic is the very low level. Prognostic means not only you know what is wrong, but you are able to predict. And feed forward means is that you are able to change the system to prevent it from happening. So giving you medicine is like feed forward. I know you have disease, I give you medicine, I'm able to prevent you from getting sick. So I think we can go through these fast. We'll talk later on. I think we are going backward. So I'm trying to accelerate the process so that we can finish it on time. So you can see these slides show that most of the research that is done and all the computer science, what logic computer science uses? What's the underlying logic? What logic computer science is based on is the binary numbers, right? 010101. So whole computer science is based on binary behavior. Binary is the simplest form of measurement, right? What can be simpler than binary? Simpler than binary means I'm not able to distinguish between anything. There are three of them. Somebody says, oh, are they different? I say, I'm not that smart to know. So I put them in one cell. Then I say, oh, only logic I have is binary. But I have three people here, I want to use binary. Then how will I do that? So I'll put him in one and put these two in other category. I can only group them into two categories. So this is the simplest form of logic. Anything, our technology today is based on the most simple logic. So then most of the new research that people are doing is on multiple valued logic rather than binary logic. And that may take, maybe 50 years. Then a lot of PhDs have to work on how to do things where you don't just have two states, but you could have multiple states. And more you learn in physiology, you can see like cancer, it is not like you have cancer and tomorrow you die. There is a natural degradation how cancer grows. So there are many, many states, like if there is a person, then naturally you are degrading over time. Like, if most of the people, their bone density will change over time. So it is not binary logic saying you are young or you are old, right? And that is the most trivial logic. And we have developed all this technology based on very trivial set of assumptions. Make sense? So then the question is, but then as soon as you do multiple valued logic, then the mathematics will become very, very complex. So for the last 15, 20 years, most of my research has been, and a lot of PhD students that I have, is how to make things multiple value logic rather than binary logic. And then maybe 100 years from today, somebody will be able to use them. Right? And maybe 1,000 years from today, somebody may be able to use them. So we are not worried about it today. See, when I was a student at University of California, Berkeley, if on campus, big companies, say IBM or General Motors, they come to recruit students, they say, we want to give you jobs. The student will protest. Why would they protest? They say, you are thinking of education like a factory. This institution is producing students, somebody is taking the product and hiring them. They say, we don't want to be educated or trained to work in a company. They want real education that will be valid not tomorrow to IBM, but 50 years, 100 years, 1,000 years from today. So you completely separate employment from education. But today, I think there's not even a single person here who has the ability to do that, right? All of you are more worried about which job you can get and when you can get that job, which course will help you get which job, right? So that means there's a tremendous downward spiral of what education is. Today, people look at education in the context of employment. And education was never meant to serve that purpose. What you guys think? That this idea is too radical for India? You can relate to your comments before.
What I told earlier that first, if a person is happy, is having all the amenities required for example, food, for example, medicines properly, only then he can concentrate on that level of education of which you are talking, which is a fashion in America. But in India, getting a admission in a proper or a best college is only meant for getting a proper job. That's what.
But now you're in wish. You will never recover this
I
way.
have recovered, sir.
You have
I got a
recovered.
job and now I'm working on a
I'm very happy.
project
Yeah.
which is related with the industry and society.
Okay, that's
Yes.
very, very good. So one person has recovered. How about other people? Anybody? How about you? You have recovered? What is your research?
I'm doing PhD. I'm doing PhD post-study degree.
To get a job? Or nothing else? You have no curiosity about this life or this world or this universe or all the challenges out there for people? No? No? Okay.
This is the philosophy of the students even of IIT, sir. They want to get degree from here and want to settle there in America. Just what you did. 50
What I
years
did,
before.
sure.
Yes, sir.
I think that is true empirically. Is last 50 some years, 70% of IIT graduates have left the country.
Yes.
Have left
I
the
have
country.
once
Yeah.
I am taking a lecture on YouTube that what America import from India, that is the students from IIT. This is the only thing America import from India.
No, not just India.
America is leading and
We
India is
import from lot of countries.
That's what.
Yeah.
They are earning from our students, and then the
yeah.
technology they developed, they are selling again back to our country, sir. They have-
So whose fault is it? Is it fault of America or India?
no,
Hmm?
it's not a fault.
No. Who should we work with, America or India, so that you can change that?
The people have to earn money from America, and then they have to come back to India, and then again serve back to India.
Why? You think
Because now
IIT?
they are able to manage everything for their life. Now they something have to do for their country. So they don't have to permanently settle there.
No, only, but you cannot make that requirement. That would be constraining. That is not freedom, right?
Sir, you are an eminent professor, and you must have to do something about India also.
Sure.
You have served America for last 50 years, sir. At least 5 to 10 years also required for India.
I come here for 5 days,
Yes,
and
sir,
I'm
no,
not,
no, 5 days, sir.
I'm not having much success to get these people excited. They are all bored
They
with
are
what I'm
very
saying.
excited.
Huh? No,
But reliability is
not their interest. Not
no,
their
sir.
interest.
It's not a very much popular subject here in this side of it.
Sure.
Only you will see that only IIT Kharagpur and Indian Statistical Institute are having courses on reliability. They are studying only one chapter of reliability during their whole BTech career.
Sure.
That's
You know,
why-
IIT Kharagpur has a new
Reliability.
department.
Yes.
Yeah, whole
and it
department.
is offering PhD and MTech
Sure,
in
sure,
reliability.
sure.
No, any other university, I don't think that is offering any courses on
Sure.
reliability.
But that doesn't mean you guys cannot learn. I still have to see the spark in students, and I'm not getting it. Their excitement in terms of being here. So it looks like they are a little bit resigned to something, and that spark isn't there on their faces. So one aspect of teaching is, you can see a transformation in a person. All I do is to look a student in the eye and I can see whether there's a transformation or not. And I'm not seeing it so far. Maybe it's too early on Monday. Maybe it could happen on Friday. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that. What do you think?
They will definitely get something.
They'll definitely get
Yes, sir.
something. Okay.
So it's a new thing to us. We will work on it and we will come with our homework.
Oh, there's no homework. If you,
With our preparation.
yeah, I know. Yeah. No.
We
Yeah.
will give our
The last 2 to 3 days, you will definitely get a good response.
Okay.
and we
Yeah.
will make more attention towards it.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm very happy now. So then you can see that you can apply a lot of these ideas to system. We can go. So then mathematically these things become very, very complicated. This slide shows that you can see that lot of logic we have in computer science is binary, right? Then we can make it multi-state logic. But then there is a concept that was developed when I was a student at Berkeley in 1965 called the notion of fuzzy logic. So rather than fuzzy means that things are not precise. 2 plus 2 is not 4. But it could be something different, right? Maybe 4 plus minus something. So the idea is, and this is how people think. Like somebody says, oh, he's young. What does young mean? No, and I'm old. So you can see, and she's, also young, but they may have different age, right? But you are young and he's young. So you can see it has no meaning. So in fuzzy logic, for any word that we have a degree of membership. So if you're born, somebody will say degree of membership should definitely be 1. You're just born. You're done. And then if you're 50-year-old, maybe your degree of membership may be 0.4. Maybe if you are 100-year-old, your degree of member, you're still young or you're still old, but your degree as an old, your degree of membership may be 99.99. So that's the idea. So a lot of research we do based on fuzzy logic. And because most of the time things in real life just degrade. So it is not binary. So that shows you how much progress we have made in computer science. But future 100 years from today or 1,000 years from today would be very, very different. The sad thing is that if today we don't do research, then 500 years from today society will suffer. Why do I say that?
Because it will be same. But
Same, because just like today, you are benefiting from Faraday's work or Newton's work or Einstein's work. If Faraday never worked on electricity, I won't be teaching you here today, right? So the idea is that any time a society gets in a vicious cycle, like we think we are in, future is very bleak.
so we should be proactive.
You have to. Issue is not your job or issue fundamental. Then society has to reward creating things for the future. So that's the idea of education. The reason Gyan gave money to your university to bring me here, that means somebody is investing, right? So you cannot say they're not investing. That investment may not be enough. But somebody says we had to be, who started IITs? You guys know? Jawaharlal Nehru. In 1955, that Prime Minister had enough vision. And he said, if India has to grow, we need very technical people, engineers and scientists. And he funded, the first IIT was, at Kharagpur. So when I got my MTech, it was like the second batch. And that time even Delhi or other IITs were not there. And only in mid-60s, a lot of other IITs got started. So he had a vision. Nehru was not worried about, is it good for my election or not? This is the vision. And now, 100 years from his death, America and India and everybody will benefit from that. And in education, you cannot be local. Right? A lot of things you are learning, who did the research for what you are learning? Not India, but many other countries. You are reading a paper that was written in Germany or Japan or Russia or United States. So in education, you have a very global perspective. So you cannot be very local. And anytime you have ideas, you have to be able to share it with the whole world. So that's why many courses we have at MIT and many other universities, like MOOC, they're open source. Anybody in the world can learn it. You don't have to pay any much resources, but anybody can learn it. So you don't want to go through what we call as dark ages. You ever heard the word dark ages in history of human beings? No? So you can look at the history like in Europe. So you say what happened in 9th century and 10th century, and then we use the word Renaissance. As suddenly society woke up and everybody started painting, and then we have scientists and philosophers. So then you say, oh, for 3 centuries, what did people do? They went to bed, they woke up, they sleep. There's no creativity. So what are people doing? So those things, like we call them dark ages, people are not being creative. They are not doing things for future generations. Make sense? So you don't want to be a society that is part of, in future, your grandchildren will say, oh, our grandparents were so bad, they never did anything, and now we are suffering more and more and more. So that's the concept. So I think a lot of these ideas we'll cover again, and we can take a 11 minute and 10 seconds break. So that means is that it is 11 minutes and 10 seconds. So that means you have to be very precise. You can look at your watch and then come back in 11 minutes and 10 seconds.